Hello, this is Kris Nelson for EvolveConsciousness.org. I will be reading the short post, Failure to Realize and Actualize Truth and Morality. This was published on the 9th of August, 2014. Do you feel frustrated with life, with our planet's condition, with how we live? Or maybe you are frustrated but don't know why, and try to find ways of relieving it, but it never lasts. I'm talking about frustration in the world. Why do we have this? And this is going to go into the false self and the true self, where you have a schism, but you're not able to resolve it because you're not consciously aware. So the inability to actualize, realize, and live as an authentic human being in alignment with truth and morality internalizes as frustration and aggression. Concern and compassion for the suffering and wrongs done to others is superseded by a refocusing on the self in order to neutralize the frustration and aggression that is engendered by the dissatisfaction with the system of civilization we live in. Our personal lives, our comfort, our convenience, and our pleasure gratification become the focus in our lives. This helps to combat the fracture in perceptions of reality that conflict with our deep yearning for living in truth, morality, freedom, and peace. This helps to mask, cloud, and obfuscate the underlying suffering we are not fully consciously aware of, and prevent us from dealing with the root causal core foundational factors that continue to create our current condition. Failure to identify the root cause of our frustration has us desperately grasping at anything we think will be able to alleviate this internal conflict. People are led into cul-de-sacs and other false paths with the promise of relief, but they are only manipulative ploys of control. We desperately want to do something rather than do nothing, as the clever rhetoric goes. But this is the path of wasted time, energy, and effort, channeling all that energy into circular movements that go nowhere. So this is, people want to do something. They don't want to be patient. They want to engage in something right now, even if it's not the right solution. This is the problem with the gradualism. People will implement gradualism of giving slaves a better shack, giving them better work days, but they're still going to be slaves. They don't see the reality as it is, so they're just focused on doing something in order to feel like they're actually doing something in order to change the situation, but it doesn't change it, and in some cases it can make it worse. And that's because they're acting before they spent time learning. That's why I have my infographic again, where you have to spend some time learning before you can act properly. Because if you just want to do something, that's the quick fix. Everyone wants that. They want the quick information. They want the quick fix. They don't want to do the hard work and learn. So this frustration I'm talking about, people try to find ways to alleviate it over and over. But the problem is, so long as you do not seek truth and morality, so long as you do not care for truth and morality, then you're going to continue to have frustrations because you will be continuing to live as a false self and not actualizing yourself in greater degrees of realization as a true self, authentic, examined being. So that's why you have frustrations. That's why everyone's frustrated, because we're not living in authenticity with truth. People don't get it. Continue. As long as we buy the belief that they are useful, that the circular movements that go nowhere, doing something useless, as long as we buy the belief that they are useful, then we will continue to pour our time and energy into it, thinking we are getting somewhere by doing something. It's just a big circular cycle, but our position on the board is so low that we can't see the bigger picture. We cannot find the proper target for our frustration and end up going insane, accepting falsity as truth and truth as falsity, living in double-think cognitive dissonance to uphold the only thing we know about ourselves, our ego personality identity construct based on the lies of this system. We externalize our internal contradictions in our false ways of living, behavior, and action. Our ability to be honest with ourselves fades away as we overly attach Our ability to be honest with ourselves fades away as we are overly attached to the false self-image we have been conditioned with, refusing to look in the mirror and see what is really there. The system was cleverly engineered. Create a continual fracture, disconnect, disintegrity, disharmony, disunity, and misalignment in people between their current way of living and the between their current way of living and the authentic living in truth and morality that they cannot actualize and realize in life. So it's to get people to accept falsity so that they become false selves, so that they live in falsity. And then that creates a fracture, misalignment between the natural progression of discovering truth and morality and aligning with it and living an authentic life. Because when you're living evil as if it were good and you believe it's good, you're not living an authentic life because you're living falsity. You're a false self, which is everyone on the planet. To continue, this is done by conditioning people into a system of dependence in order to coerce them into conforming to the various false images and false self programs that are running. Maximal survivability in the system is ensured through maximum integration into the programs of the system. The less you integrate into the falsity of the system, the less you become codependent, the more independent you can become as a result. By comparison to systemic living, there is less convenience and comfort in life by taking up these personal responsibilities. So as we remove ourselves from the false system, from the falsities, we can re-examine ourselves and expel that falsity from ourselves and no longer support it in ourselves and in society. And that creates less comfort and convenience because we're no longer in the dependence, the codependence of the system. But either way, we're always going to be, in most cases, we're going to be codependent on each other, but at least in truth and morality, living together in a common understanding of the fundamentals of life, which are, the fundamentals of survival, I mean. And survival, you need water, food, and shelter, and that's it. And that's the three basics we all need to focus on, and everything else is supplementary, secondary manifestations that are not necessary for our survival. So we can all detach from our attachments to all the technology and everything, and we can go back. Even before we do it, we can at least go back in a thought experiment and see how we are actually supposed to create our way of living. And I'll be coming up with that in the future after I do my natural law presentation on a new way of living, which will analyze what we need to do to maximize our freedom. To continue, greater integration ensures a greater attachment to the system. So the more integrated in the system you're in, the more attached you are to it, and the less likely you are to ever let go. This increasingly ensures a conditioned automaton universal constructor that will perform its operations as an outcome-based unit of production, as a cog in the machine. This way, everyone is living mere slight variations of false appearances, thinking they are unique individuals while running the same structural programming, ensuring more of the same continues. And if you look at Natural Law Causal Agents video, which includes the hamster wheel insulated bubbles of reality, most people in there are in a systemic loop of the system where they perpetuate what already is and keeps it going by not learning, by not seeking truth and morality. So they live, they survive, they procreate, and then they focus on enjoying life. Always in between that, it's always about enjoying life for most people in the survival modality of pleasure versus pain. Everyone seeks pleasure, so you're trying to have fun, enjoy yourself. That's pleasure. Pleasure gratification, pleasure trap. And then after pleasure you die. So it's life, survive, procreate, enjoy life, and then die. And everyone keeps doing the same thing over and over, and that's why everything keeps going on and nothing changes. People don't want it to change. Oh, well, here you go. This is the next paragraph. To continue, this is the hamster wheel of life. Life, survival, procreate, enjoy life, death. Each generation repeats the same thing with small variations in the amount of comfort, convenience, pleasure, and distractions they have in their lives. These appearances are required to keep people from looking at what really happens, what really matters. Keep looking and enjoying all the distractions before you, and live exactly the life of distractions that they want you to live, so that their agenda can move forward gradually, as has been the case for centuries. Now, the important thing of gradualism, everything has to be implemented gradually. You have to get people to accept things that were no longer acceptable. And then once they're acceptable, then you can go for things that were, by comparison of the previous thing, that were more acceptable in the previous state in the past, say 10 years ago or 50 years ago. 50 years ago was unacceptable for the thing right now that's going on. But even 50 years ago, the thing right now that's going on, there were things 50 years ago that were even more egregious than what's going on now. But right now we're being accepted into those falsities and immoralities, whereas 50 years ago or 100 years ago we would have never accepted them. But the only way we're going to accept them now is through a graduation into falsity, a graduation into evil, as if it were good, as if it were true, as if it were right. That's what gradualism works. If you implement drastic changes towards falsity and big changes in the environment, people don't like changes, first of all. So even if it's for their betterment, they're probably going to object. But when it's sold as their own betterment, but it's actually for their own enslavement, then they're totally blind to it, because this has been going on for hundreds of years and thousands of years. And it's just a little game where, people have revolutions, and then they set up another shell game where they pretend to give them more rights and more freedoms, and then they start over again and gradually reduce it. Because evil isn't something that exists in itself, and neither is truth something that exists in itself. These are truth, love, good, right, morality, natural law as aspects of transcendental being, and the lack of those aspects of being is manifested in existence as those aspects of being themselves are manifested in existence. So through the manifestations of existence, I mean they're expressed. Those aspects of transcendental being, or the lack of the being, is expressed through manifestations in reality. So we can express truth. A glass itself represents truth because it's a glass made of glass, and it's not a shoe made of rubber. Something is and something isn't. It's identity, it's causality, it's the one-to-one ratio. To continue, with everyone out for themselves or their close ones, trying to relieve the stress, discomfort, and frustration of living in our delusional world as a false self, with little to no care for others' suffering, no wonder we can't get anywhere. Only me and my family matter above everyone else. Only my freedom and my truth matter above the truth itself. The only thing that can stop all of this is true, authentic, actualized, realized, individuated integration of ourselves with truth, love, good, right, morality, natural law, etc. This is the purpose to evolving consciousness. The only way we get out of this is living the way and path of truth and morality. This is the whole purpose of the spiritual quest journey on the path towards truth. This is a deep need in our being that is not being fulfilled. So back to the gradualism, well, in terms of the transcendental aspects of being, the aspects of transcendental being as truth, love, good, right, morality, natural law, are what is, and the lack of it is the lack of that transcendental being manifested in reality. So to get people to accept falsity is to take them away from who they're actually capable of being. It's our infinite potential and value is in the true self of truth and morality. And when we are gradually accepting lies as truth, falsity as truth, and we reject truth because we think it's lies, well, we're living as a false self. We're inauthentic, unexamined, and that's how they get us to become further degraded, by imposing more ideas and more gradualism, and to accept evil as good and falsity as truth, and to reject truth as being false. I have a rant on gradualism and some notes elsewhere, but I'm at a loss of thoughts right now to elaborate on the article. I just woke up. I woke up at 5:30. It's 7 o'clock now, so I usually do my audios in the morning, and it's sometimes not such a great idea. But anyways, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time and attention. Have a nice day. Take care. Peace.